Thinking about becoming a travel agent? If so, then you landed on the right video because I'm going to be sharing the 5 biggest mistakes that new travel agents make and how you can avoid them. Let's get into it. Hey there, my name is Brittany. I'm a travel agent myself, as well as the founder of Travel Agent Haven, which is the YouTube channel that you're watching right now. I make videos for newbie travel agents and for people thinking about getting into the travel industry. So if you've been thinking about becoming a travel agent, or if you've just become one and you're feeling really lost, I totally understand. I'm hoping I can help. And I really do endeavor to make this the safest, most supportive community for travel agents on the internet. So I'm really glad you're here. Okay, let's get into it. We're talking about the 5 biggest mistakes new travel agents make, and I'm going to give you a summary of all of them, and then we're going to dive into each one. We're going to talk about number 1, which is a mistake of selling everything to everyone. You're also going to hear the word niche and why it's so important. Number 2, we're going to talk about how sometimes we underprice ourselves and can even end up working for free. You definitely want to watch that and avoid working for free, so be sure to stick around for the whole thing. The mistake number 3 is not marketing consistently, and thankfully we can help you with that. Mistake number 4 is ignoring or not even doing the sales process. I know sales is a word that makes everybody go, ooh, and sales is different from marketing. So I'll talk a little bit about that as well. And then number 5 is not building a long-term client base, thinking too much in the here and now and not really thinking strategically and long-term in the future, which is good for us to do. And I know it's hard because if you're thinking about becoming a travel agent, or if you've just become one, you're probably like, where do I get my first client? Or where do I get my first few clients? But really you want to go in with a strategy in mind, knowing exactly who you're talking to if possible, what kind of travel you want to book if possible, and what you want to be known for. So let's get into it. Mistake number 1 is trying to sell everything to everybody. It is impossible to make everyone happy. That is just a life rule you can take beyond what we're doing in travel here, but you do need to have some kind of niche. I like to call this a starter niche. It's something to at least get you started and to work so that you can attract your first 5 to 10 clients, because what's going to happen is that experience working with people one-on-one is going to give you data. I am a huge data nerd. You need to know what you like and what you don't like, what is and isn't hard for you, what is and isn't enjoyable, the kind of people you want to work with and the kind of work you want to do, but you won't know that until you try out different kinds of work, which means you have to be willing to experiment and try out different things. Now, at the beginning, it is a little tough because you don't have enough experience yet. You don't have any social proof. You don't have any reviews. You don't have any testimonials or people saying that you know travel on your behalf. So you might have to be a little more willing to book anything for anyone. But if you can position yourself as an expert in just one thing, it's going to help out so much. This girl, Victoria, which I'm going to put on the screen here, built an amazing TikTok account around being a Formula One fan. And that is a very specific niche community, especially in the UK. So obviously she has become the go-to person on TikTok for that. And she has sold hundreds of thousands of dollars in travel, if not millions at this point, just focusing on Formula One. So while it might seem like she's actually limiting herself, she kind of is in a way. If people want to book cruises, she's not your girl, but she knows specifically who she is, what she's doing, and she's built an amazing business based on that. I'm also going to put Heather somewhere on the screen. She is one of the travel agents I'm personally mentoring. She had such a hard time with this at the beginning because she also wants to travel the world. That's one of the reasons she became a travel agent. She wants to go everywhere, see everything, do everything, and she found it really hard and limiting to pick a niche at first. But I knew that she had been on a few cruises and that the people in her area, which is who she's serving, she's decided to focus specifically on the clients who live nearby her, and she lives in Kentucky. So she knew that she'd want to focus on cruises because that's what they're familiar with and that's what they're willing to book. And then in the future, once she's built that long-term client base, which is mistake number 5, we'll get to that, she can go and sell more things. And now she's actually planning a safari as of when I'm recording this. We actually recorded an interview on the Pack Your Passport podcast, which is also here on YouTube, all about her experience shifting to remote work with her travel business. So definitely go check that one out if you haven't already. I'll be sure to put the card up on the screen, or if for some reason that doesn't work, I'll be sure to link it in the description down below. And then I also want to put my friend Carly Hayward. I have also interviewed her on the podcast. I'll be sure to link hers as well. It's a really good interview sharing about how she transitioned from being a full-time teacher, because they're both former teachers, to a full-time travel agent. She's built a massively successful business focusing specifically on Antarctica. I would say she also offers other things, like she talks about the Galapagos, she talks about safaris and animal encounters, but she's really carved out an amazing niche niche for herself in Antarctica travel. So we're talking niche because those are high ticket trips. Not everybody can do it, but she knows it. And so people have come to know her for this. So definitely go check out that interview if you have some time today, or go ahead and save it for your watch later list. The way to avoid this problem of trying to sell everything to everyone and be everything to everybody is really to pick what I call your starter niche. And we're going to do this right now really quickly together, okay? You can just decide this right now and then not have to spend mental drama over this. You can either pick one of three things, or you could pick more than one. You're either going to start with a destination or a type of traveler. The destination could be a country or region. The type of travel could be cruises, expedition trips, outdoor multi-day backpacking trips, or the type of traveler, like I decided to niche down on trips for teachers, group trips for teachers actually. So that's kind of two niches, right? A type of travel, group trips, tours, and type of traveler, which is teachers. So you can pick more than one. You can pick cruises in Mexico. That's a type of travel and a destination. You can pick type of travel, customize Europe trips. So that's a destination and a type of travel where you book everything individually for them. It's a lot of work. So that comes down to the pricing, which we'll get to with mistake number 2. But you do want to be thinking about when you pick your niche, you want to pick one that is profitable and that also you know. And don't be afraid to go with what's local to you. I know so many people don't think of their hometown or their home region as exciting, but you might be living next to a tourist place and you can go get great content for marketing, photos, videos, clips. So don't be afraid to start with what you know. I know it can feel limiting because you want to travel around the world, but you can always use what you build with your travel business to take you to those other places later. Okay, number 2, big mistake, overworking and working for free / underpricing, undercharging. And we'll talk about the charging because if you're watching this video and you're just at the beginning of your journey looking into becoming a travel agent, you might not know exactly how we get paid. So let me explain that really quickly. Travel agents are paid usually on a commissions basis. That's the traditional way. Similar to how a real estate agent earns a percentage commission of the total sale, it's the same for travel agents. So if you were to sell a family vacation for $10,000 and your commission was 20%, the agency you work with would receive that 20% from the supplier, the tour operator, whatever, and then you would earn your portion of the sale from the host agency. Now, I am only talking about host agencies mostly on my channel. There are so many ways to become a travel agent, and I'll be sure to cover that in another video in depth, but I will say short version of that is the host agency is the way to go for like 98% of you. It's the most affordable, it's the fastest way, it's the least amount of risk. So you can see right there that if I sell a $10,000 trip, if I can earn up to 20%, let's even say conservatively 12 to 15% of that, that's not bad for me just clicking a few buttons on a portal for maybe a couple of hours of work. Really not bad. I mean, there have been trips I've planned that I've made between $300 to $500 an hour. And at the beginning, it's probably not going to be like that because it's going to take you longer to do things because you're figuring out how long it takes you to do things. You're figuring out which partners and portals and suppliers are best for a certain destination or kind of travel. But it will eventually get to the point once you build up your systems that you're making a lot more money for a little amount of work instead of making a little money for a lot of work. But also don't devalue your expertise. You have some knowledge already. If you've been to a place even once, you still know more from personal experience than someone who's never been there before. And if you've been to a place multiple times, then you have some in-depth experience because you have multiple experiences to compare to. And if you're a local, even better. So it comes back to that niche, at least your starter niche, of what do you want to be known for or what can you speak to? Because I can tell you when it comes to building a brand online with social media, on YouTube, starting a podcast, website, travel blog, whatever, you're going to be way more successful if you start with something that people are already looking for. So for example, I live in Tucson as of when I'm recording this, and I know that many people come to Tucson. So I've actually been secretly building up a Tucson blog behind the scenes because I know since I'm living here for the foreseeable future, I can build up some massive and deep knowledge here and I can specialize in Tucson if I want, or I could even hire someone to specialize in that for my own branch of my own agency. So just things to think about long term. As far as what you can do to fix this problem or avoid it, so one way to avoid overworking is to set a schedule for yourself and then also to track your time and figure out how long does it take you to do certain tasks. Because then you can figure out, okay, this certain task is taking me a really long time. I'm going to find a way to automate that, or also ask yourself, does it need to be done? And then when you get to a certain point in your business, you can delegate that task to someone else and pay them to do it out of the commissions that you'd be making so that you're not having to do everything yourself. So that whole process is called eliminate, automate, and delegate. And it's something I teach my travel agents things to do. Once you've built up some testimonials, you have reviews, you have some social proof, you have people validating that you know your experience and they're willing to work with you, then you can start charging for your time. Agents do this in different ways. I've seen some people charge research fees. Sometimes that research fee is refundable. So if the client ends up booking with you, you refund it because you've made those other hundreds or thousands. I've seen some people charge for itinerary planning. So that way, even if the client doesn't end up booking with them, they still make the money for the itinerary they made. Let me know if you want me to do a separate video all about charging fees. That's another frequently asked question I get, but I'm just trying to figure out if that's what you really need me to dive into. If so, happy to make a video about it. Be sure to let me know in the comments. And of course, it always comes down to communicating expectations clearly. That can solve so many problems, not just in business, but in life. The number 3 mistake is not marketing consistently, or even worse, not marketing at all. Now, there is a big difference between marketing and sales. Marketing is thinking about your position in the market and placing yourself there and getting visible. So it's talking to the people that you directly want to work with. It's thinking about the words you want to say. That's your messaging. Which channels you're going to use for that. This is what I love to do. It's what I specialize in. So this is why you will always hear me talk about email marketing, YouTube marketing, podcasting, blogging. Those are all what we call long form content, and short form content like Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest is kind of in the middle, TikTok, things like that. That's all marketing. It's where we're positioning ourselves in the market. We're crafting a message. We're getting that message in front of the people who need to hear it. So we're positioning our product or our service as a thing that they need to solve certain problems, meet a certain pain point. That's a mini marketing masterclass right there, but the really simple version is getting yourself out there. Now, as far as not marketing consistently, I will tell you that consistency is always something you're probably going to be striving for. It's even hard for me, and I'm a seasoned professional doing this full time, because other things will always fight for precedence. Of course, client work is my number 1 priority, but marketing should also be like your number 2 priority, because we always need to be building up our client base. Hopefully, the people that we're working with right now will continue to work with us and book with us in the future. But if we want to have steady recurring income, because our bills are probably not going to change much from month to month, especially if your specific niche is seasonal, then yeah, we need to make sure we're always getting someone else down the pipeline so we can sell to them later. So you want to be thinking about how will you show up and market yourself. And by the way, marketing online is not the only way. I have another video. I'll be sure to link the card here, or at least have the link in the description. That's all about how to market yourself without social media. So don't think you have to be a big influencer or video star in order to build a business. That's totally not true. I know so many agents personally who I've mentored who use trade shows, they do networking, in-person referrals, and they do things like sponsoring local teams and things like that to get their name and business out there. So don't feel like you have to be on social media. If I had a choice and could shake you and make you do things, I would make sure that you have long form content, at least 1 channel, a weekly live show, YouTube channel, podcast, or a blog, ideally also a website and something with your face showing, at least 1 short form platform like TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, etc., an email list, and 1 way to market in person. That's what I would have for you, but I know 4 channels is a lot. So start with 1, ideally a long form channel, get really good at that, and make sure you're collecting leads, whether that's email marketing proper or using an intent form and collecting email addresses there. Mistake number 4 is related to that, and that is ignoring the sales process or not even recognizing that we are in a sales business. Thankfully, all sales really is building relationships, recognizing what people's problems are, and then solving those problems for them. So if you think of it like that, these people need our help, especially because we want to be talking directly in our marketing, in our sales, to people who are actively thinking about planning and booking a trip. Ideally, we want to talk to someone when they have their credit card out ready to book, not when they're thinking about maybe planning a trip someday. That, by the way, for those people who are kind of looking like, I don't know if I want to go to Hawaii or Portugal, those people are not ready to book yet. They're interested, but they're not ready. So you want to make sure you're doing some qualifying. When people are talking to you about becoming your client, you want to ask them questions to be able to assess where they are in the stage for this, because if they're not ready, you don't want to waste your time. However, you can send them resources like a blog post you've written, a YouTube video you've made, or some kind of social media content you've had to show that you have resources and you want to help them, but then collect their information so you can follow up with them later and make sure they have a way to reach out to you when they are ready to book. Sales is definitely a process that you have to guide people on, from not knowing you at all to knowing you you to now knowing you and trusting you with the business to now actually booking with you. So you need to make sure you have certain systems set up and in place at all times, ideally automated so you're not doing all of this manually yourself, so that you can keep that relationship and conversation going, so that when they are ready to book, you're ready to serve them, and that once they do book, you know how to be able to retain that client in the future, and bonus, to be able to get referrals from that client so that one client can lead to 5. So you want to make sure you have a way to stay in touch. If you can, offer some kind of incentive or loyalty perk, especially if they're referring you to other people. And you could even put them on a list to talk about certain trips. So if you know they love Arctic areas, if they went to Antarctica, for example, they're probably going to love Iceland. They're probably going to love Greenland. They might just be interested in Scandinavian or Nordic countries in general. So get a feel for why are they picking a certain place or trip, really get to know them, and then present them with offers. It doesn't have to be salesy. It could just be a simple message of, hey, I saw this trip and immediately thought of you. What do you think? Is this going to be one of your future trips? They will appreciate the personal reach out. I promise. If you do it right, it's going to feel really good on both ends. Another quick tip you can do is to create a simple CRM system. And that can be as simple as a Google Sheet or a Trello board where you keep everybody's names organized and you just track who's already booked with you, who have you talked about booking a trip, who just needs to sign a certain form. And then that way, when you go to your work time every day or week or however you're doing it, you know what to do next. I know many travel agents love to use TravelJoy. I have not personally used it, but I have mentored many agents who have. So if you're interested in trying it out, I actually have a link down in the description where you can check it out yourself. And I'll be sure to link an episode where I interviewed some agents who talked about TravelJoy and how they use it, so that way you can learn from them personally. And then finally, related, mistake number 5 is not building a long-term client base. And thankfully, if you're doing these other things and avoiding those other mistakes, this leads into this. We do want to be promoting trips and knowing what we're talking about and creating content consistently, and all of that takes time. Serving clients right now takes time, but you also want to be looking ahead to the future and knowing exactly what your plan and your goals are. You have to work backwards and think, how much money do you want or need to make every month? That's your portion of the commission. So based on that, how much of the commissions will your host agency receive? And then based on that, how much of the sale do you need to make? So once you start thinking about that in terms of numbers and then the daily activities you have that will result in those numbers, it becomes so much easier to schedule your days and plan your weeks, and also to prioritize what's important and what's not. But building a long-term client base is definitely important, because you won't have a business if you don't do that. If you are a travel agent already and you don't mind sharing, I would love to hear some mistakes that you've made, if you don't mind, because then someone who isn't a travel agent yet might see this and you might be able to help them avoid making mistakes in the future. If you're not a travel agent yet, but you have a question about becoming one, or there's a mistake that you've been thinking you might want to avoid or that you've read about or heard about, go ahead and drop that in the comments as well. I'm happy to respond to comments here. If you'd rather ask me a question one-on-one and not have it seen by the public, I totally understand. You can send me a DM on Instagram over at Travel Agent Haven. I'll be sure to put the QR code up on the screen so you could just scan it with your phone and go right to it. But if you have your phone out, you can also just type in Travel Agent Haven and you should be able to find me. I also have a ton of freebies and resources about getting started as a travel agent and getting your first 2 clients. You can find all of those down in the description. If you liked this video, go ahead and hit like. That lets YouTube know I'm doing a good job. And if you want to learn more about becoming a successful travel agent, be sure to subscribe and hit the little bell so you don't miss notifications of when a new video is posted. Thanks so much for watching again. My name is Brittany from Travel Agent Haven. So nice to quote unquote meet you. I'm glad you're here, and we'll talk soon.